Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to another edition of Dungeons and Deliberations, our Tuesday night stream here on the Master of Dungeons Twitch channel. I'm the Master of Dungeons. Welcome in. If you hear my familiar chirping, she just woke up a little while ago and was fed, so she's kind of chirping in the background. Tonight, I was going to do a review of the new D&D movie, Honor Among Thieves, but since it's only been out for a few days, I mean, there was a couple of preview events a week or two ahead of time, but I'm sure there's still a lot of people out there, whether you're watching this live or video on demand or on YouTube later on, that haven't had a chance to see the film yet. So I'm going to go ahead and wait until next week for Dungeons and Deliberations to discuss, give, I guess, a review of the new D&D Honor Among Thieves. I will say this much without any spoilers or anything like that. If you have a chance to go see it, definitely go check it out. It is, of course, written by the writers from Spider-Man No Way Home, I believe, or Far From Home, one of the two, maybe both. But it is filled with action, fantasy, lots of great D&D stuff in it, as well as a lot of the comedy that is really, really good. Great performances all around. But again, I'm not going to talk about it tonight, as I do want to avoid spoilers for those that haven't had a chance to see it yet. But we will be talking about it next week. Don't worry, I will put in the title of the stream spoilers, since we are going to be talking about a movie that's only going to be out about a week and a half in theaters by the time we talk about it next Tuesday. Normally, we'll answer questions from the viewers. We'll answer questions from our Discord channel. Most of the stuff lately has been about Adventurers League. On Monday evenings, our live play stream, we've been playing through the Keys from the Golden Vault, the new hardcover from Wizards of the Coast for 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. It's a anthology of adventures, heists that the players kind of have to work together as a team to accomplish. And we've been using Adventurers League rules. So the last session we ran, which was a couple of weeks ago of Dungeons and Deliberations, we talked about the Adventurers League and all those different rules. I do apologize last week for those that might have tuned in. We were off kind of on vacation mode last week as my power supply went out a couple of Fridays back. During actually my stream had started, my countdown was almost over for our dungeon delving on Friday, and my power supply and my speaker went out. Like some sort of surge came through. Luckily, nothing else got through the surge protector. It didn't hurt anything else, but we had to wait for another power supply. And I do have, hopefully, another speaker, a little sound bar coming in tomorrow that I can put underneath the shelf here, which this my main monitor sits. And we should, after that, I'll just have to wait for my gaming mouse to come in, and we'll be all back up and running. But we've got that taken care of. That way, when we stream this Thursday and Friday for Dungeon Delving, of course, we play Lord of the Rings Online, which is a free-to-play MMO. We do play on the Landreval server. That way, if anyone that's watching or wants to join us can, of course, jump in on that server also. So until we have some more people in or any other questions, what I've been doing a lot of times in the evenings for Dungeons and Deliberations, if we don't have a whole bunch of questions in the audience, again, we are a new channel. We've only been at it for about 5 or 6 weeks. Once we build up a little bit more of a viewership, we'll hopefully have some more questions and viewers on Tuesday nights for our just chatting, which is kind of what this really is, even though we're talking always about Dungeons and Dragons. So we try putting in the just chatting topic in Twitch, but I think we're just going to go ahead and stick with Dungeons and Dragons, as we are chatting about Dungeons and Dragons. So tonight what I'll do is I'll go back. I know a few weeks back I had audio issues, and we didn't have audio for the first 20 minutes or so of the stream, and some of the viewers were kind enough to point that out, and then we fixed the audio, came back and finished up the stream. But we've been talking about maps. We have been talking about Roll20 a couple of weeks before. In the week or two previous to that, we were talking about different things for Roll20. We talked about the different controls on the left side of the screen, the different categories in the top right. And then we started talking about putting maps on the board, and we did put maps on the board. Some of the stuff hopefully was fairly explanatory, as I didn't have audio in the stream before last, 3 weeks ago, I believe, tonight. So what I was going to do tonight, I'll keep checking the chat, of course, if anyone has any questions. Of course, if you're watching this on video on demand or on the YouTube channel, feel free to put any comments down below. But what I was going to do tonight is show you how to layer maps, and then maybe discuss a little bit about adding sound to some of your adventures. So let me go over to our Roll20 scene here and bring that up for everyone. This was the map that we had put on last time that we had talked about Roll20. But what we're going to do is we're going to come up here to the page toolbar. We already have a new page created. Again, you can add the pages here in between, or of course you can create a new page up here. We're just going to go to this page here, Untitled. And right here, we're going to add some different maps. Now, what we're going to do is I'm going to layer maps on the map and background layer so that we can change a map as the DM, whether the players are in a specific area during the daytime or if they're in the specific area at night. So what it's going to allow us to do is to add some maps to the board. We're going to add 2 maps. We're going to add one for daytime and one for nighttime. And then we're going to layer them and show you how to switch back and forth between the two. That way, when the players are in the area at night, you can have the night map up, and the players are in the area during the day, you can have the day map up without having to create 2 different map pages on your up here in your page toolbar. So we're going to go through, and I am using some maps from one of my favorite, if I don't make my own maps, I really tend to, and of course if I'm not using a WotC licensed product, I like to use some maps from a group called Neutral Party. They're really, really great at making maps. You can find them on Patreon as well, and I follow them on Tumblr. They do put up some free maps on Tumblr as well for you to use in your games. Definitely might want to check with them. I'm not sure if they do any specific commissions or anything like that. I haven't had a chance to look into that yet. But like I said, they're a great group of map makers over there. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a forest crossing road. So we're going to pull this first map out. This is going to be the daytime map. It will take a couple of moments for it to load up, but it will add it into your art library once you have it pardon me, uploaded into the game, or into your VTT, I should say. And hopefully it won't take that long to load up. It's not that big of a file. Just a few more moments. I have to remember for next time to preload them and pull them out of our art library so I can show you how to pull stuff out from there as well. All right, so it's going to ask us to adjust the page size or fit the page. We talked about those a little bit a couple of weeks back, 3 weeks, I believe. What we're going to do is we're going to do either of these. I don't click the don't show me again because there are sometimes you want to fit a map to the page, or sometimes you want to adjust the page size. What we're going to do is we're going to close this out so it doesn't do anything to our map. So obviously we can see that our map, the squares on the grid on the map is much larger than the grid on our page. So what we're going to do is, so we can see our grid a little bit better, let's go up here and turn the opacity of the of our grid up, and let's go ahead and change the color so we can see the color a little bit better while we're adjusting the map. So let's go ahead and turn it to a bright blue. Save settings. That way we can see a little bit better our grid on here. We're going to go ahead and pull this over, pull this down to where we have that top corner there. Now let's scroll down here. Obviously that's a lot bigger than what we have here, and our grid is 25 by 25. So we're going to hope this is a 25 by 25 map, but what we're going to do instead is change the size. We're going to make this a 40 by 40 just to see if that gives us a little bit extra breathing room. So we want to try to keep the map dimensions as close to possible as the original. So that gives us a little bit of room, which is great. So we're going to go ahead and just start scaling the map down to where the squares are fairly close to the actual squares on the map itself. and then we can go through and adjust it fairly easily afterwards. Then we'll be able to find out what size it is, and when we put the other map on, we can replicate it to do the same size. It's like one more maybe. Yep, there we go. All right, so this looks like maybe hopefully it might be a 25 by 25, but it might be a 30 by 30. So we're going to go through and figure out how many of these we got to take off. It's like at least 5 by 5. Let's go 30 by 30, see what that does. All right, so it is a 25 by 25. That's perfect, which is the default for your maps on Roll20, is 25 by 25. All right, so now we're going ahead and we can go up here. Actually, because the map itself has a grid on it, we can actually just go ahead and put the color back to normal gray and just turn the opacity all the way off. And that way you'll still see your grid from the map itself on there, and it lines up right. So then we're going to go through. This would be like if they're coming through during the this crossroads here during the daytime. This is the map that you would use for the players as they're going through. You can go through, again, we talked a little bit about dynamic lighting 3 weeks ago. So you can go through on your dynamic lighting, you can set up your different boxes on your trees to where you would hide certain areas if someone was hiding behind the tree trunk, things like that. You can set those up. Now, since there's also a great night version of this map, you won't have to reset your dynamic lighting because the maps are identical except for basically the coloring. So there are a lot of map makers out there that you can find through Patreon, Tumblr, things like that that do create maps for different times of the day. They have the same map and they have different colorations for them. So for this one, we also use this Forest Crossroads, and then we have a Forest Crossroads night map, so we're going to go ahead and pull that out. Since we know the dimensions of this are already 25 by 25, we can go ahead and change, just set that dimensions by 25 by 25 units once we get it loaded up. Looks like I have a couple viewers in. Welcome in. If it's your first time, apologies. This is a followers only chat. You do have to be a follower for 10 minutes before you can chat. All right, so we do have this map in it. We're going to go ahead and just go to advanced on the map. We're going to set the dimensions. So we're going to set it not pixels, but we're going to set it to units, 25 by 25. It is already set. Good to go. So then what we're going to do is come up over here and position the map right on top of the other one. And right there it is. Now, so right now, if their players are coming through the map during the nighttime, they'd see this map. Colors washed out a little bit. You can even set light sources in there if you want on the dynamic lighting layer. But when the players come in, they can say they make a camp. You put a campfire or something over here for them. They can set up their tents, all of that. And then all you have to do to change the map is you actually take the top map, which is this the nighttime map right now. You right-click it, and you move it to the back. And when you do, that daytime map is going to move to the front. So now you have your daytime map up. You can do that with a lot of different ways with different maps. There have some map creators, cartographers and stuff for D&D do make maps with different weather and such. So if it's rainy, you can find some really cool different maps. And what I tend to do is I find a good bunch of maps, maybe about 20 or so, that will, especially for if you're running homebrew or even running Adventures League or pre-written adventures and such, that can easily take the place of whatever maps you might need from the adventures themselves. And of course, it's not that big of a deal if you're running underground maps or complexes inside or anything like that. But this is just something fun that you can do for outdoor maps to have your players get a little bit more immersion out of it. And as I mentioned, what we can do is we can go to our dynamic lighting and say we want to go ahead and set up some boxes for these little trees to give us give a little bit of vision here and there. What we can do is we're on dynamic lighting layer. Again, your map background, your objects and tokens, your GM and info layer, and your dynamic lighting layer. So we're just going to go to draw shape. It's going to be a wall since we're just going to have they won't really be able to look through them. Let's just change the color. Completely dependent on what you want to do with your walls and windows and doors. I tend to use blue for my walls. I tend myself to use orange for my doors, and I use yellow for my windows. Of course, if you might be colorblind or anything like that, I would definitely go through and pick the colors that you can distinguish the easiest from. That way, you're not having your walls and your doors and your windows all the same color and then not remembering which ones to actually move or change for your players to be able to view. The beautiful thing about Roll20 also is that they have just added in, let's go ahead and first pick that color for the walls. They have added in the ability to add in windows and doors yourself, which is really great because you can, of course, you can still choose the colors of those, but you can hide them, secret door. You can have them locked. The players can see them. The players can actually move up to the door and click on the door and find out if it's locked or not. Of course, you can unlock it for them, allow them to open the doors themselves. You can also still place them as you normally do in the dynamic lighting layer before. But we're just going to do a wall. We're just going to be doing draw shape. That way we can easily just put a little bit of dynamic lighting in here and there for the players. This one a little bit bigger. That's a little brush. We won't worry about that too much. That was a little bit of a brush. We won't worry about that one. And then what will happen is because the map is obviously on a different layer, when you go to switch the maps, your dynamic lighting is not going to change. And since the maps are pretty much identical other than the shading and coloring, your dynamic lighting is still going to be in place, which is really great. Again, of course, these are all just the way I do some stuff. If you figure out better ways to do it, I mean, definitely drop it in the comments if you're watching on YouTube, or mention it on the Discord channel. If you're not a member of our Discord server, our community server, you can find that link below right now. If you go to the About Us section under the video here, it'll pull up a bunch of stuff. It'll have our Discord panel there. You'll be able to click on that and join our community server right now if you want. It's also got a Linktree link to all of our different social medias that our chimerical collective, as it were, take care of. Yeah, so as I mentioned, if you want to share your tips and things like that about what you do for Roll20 or VTT, perhaps you might use Foundry, or you might use Fantasy Grounds or something of that nature. We have people to use all those different VTTs on the server that are able to help out, and would definitely be interested in extra tips here and there to help out with their DMing of their, setting up their VTTs in their games. Pretty close to that's not too bad. Some of these trees could be just bushes. Not necessarily going to have too much different line of sight. If we wanted to, we could actually go through and put lines so that these are, these areas aren't really places to go and hide like that. But that looks pretty good. So what we'll do is we'll go back to objects and tokens. So I believe we imported one of our characters. Yep, we did. We imported Snaps from our Sunday night game. It is his first level character. He has leveled up to 4 since then. We did level up to 4 after the game on Sunday, which is from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. If anyone wants to watch some live play. Again, we are running through the keys from the Golden Ball. But to check out, let me take that off of that draw shape. Let's go back to select. There we go. So, of course, we did set up Snap's vision already. A couple weeks back. Again, those videos are on YouTube if you want to go back to see how to set those up for the characters with your dynamic lighting. That's a couple of episodes back. But in order to see what his vision is, you click on the token and you hold down Control and you hit L, and it should. Maybe we didn't set up the vision on the token. Let's double check that. No, his vision is on. He has 120-foot night vision. Maybe that's why, but he should not be able to see through the. Oh wait, I know exactly what's wrong. Haha. We did talk about this when set up the maps. I forgot to turn on the dynamic lighting. So again, what we do for dynamic lighting is I always have movement barriers restricted by movement. So dynamic lighting, they can't move through walls. They can't move through doors unless the doors are unlocked or anything like that. We'll turn on the dynamic lighting. We'll turn on Explore mode. Explore mode, of course, as we mentioned before, is if the players are moving around the map and their vision is cannot see an area where they've already been, it just grays it out for them. They can still see what's there, where they were, but they don't know if like any reinforcements have come in there or anything like that. They don't know that, but they can at least still have an idea of what the area was where they were. I always put update token when drop again, just to kind of go over that a little bit. That way when the players are dragging their tokens out on the board, they're not seeing the whole map as they drag it across. And then since this is outdoors, we're going to go ahead and go daylight mode. That way they can, the only thing that's stopping them, their vision, will be dynamic lighting barriers. But let's leave the daylight mode off for now, and we'll save the settings on here, and then we'll take a look to see, as you can see now, looking at Snap's vision, all of these areas he cannot see where we set up the dynamic lighting. Again, we can hit Control L to see exactly what he's not able to see past. Now, again, it's nighttime. Snaps is out there. We want to show the nighttime map. We can easily go back over to our map layer, move the top map to back, and it'll show the nighttime layer. We go back to objects and tokens, and your dynamic lighting is still set. So you can change your maps. You can set up different like maps of different like city streets if they have a way to if you have two different versions of the map of the same size and just different color wash by the artist or anything of that nature. You can even set up your building dynamic lighting layers and barriers and such. Pardon me. You can set those up and switch between like a daytime map and a nighttime map, and everything's still set up for you to for your dynamic lighting is still set up. You don't have to mess with it again. So I've got some more people coming in. Hello, everyone. Next, let's go ahead and we can click off there. That just shows you it gives you a little bit of an idea of what the tokens can see when you set them up. But of course, like I said, if you click on them and then just Control L, it lets you see what they see. So again, we talked about making characters before. We talked about creating handouts, player characters and NPCs. We talked about PDFs. We could talk about music as well, and then I do want to touch on a little bit of something that a lot of people are kind of iffy about using, which is the Charactermancer. Now, the cool thing about we'll get to the Charactermancer in a little bit. It does have some customization, a lot of customization options you can use, but for the purpose of just giving some ambient music to your rooms, again, you have your chat, your art library, your journal, your compendium, and then your jukebox. You can go over to your jukebox and manage your audio. You can put your own audio in to your Roll20 account. Again, you only have limited space if you, depending on what your subscription is. If you're a free-to-play user, I think you only have so many megs, I believe. It might be a couple of gigs, perhaps. Then a Plus user has a little bit more, than a Pro user has a lot more on top of that. So you can put your own music in there. Keep in mind, of course, if you are streaming, to make sure that you do have the licenses to be able to play the music. You don't want to get a copyright tag. That's why we actually have the music that we use for our stream that you hear in our intros, things like that. That's all licensed through Monument Studios. It's a great place. We went through and picked up their Fantasy and Fantasy Complete, the Fantasy 2 packages. We're getting ready to pick up their Fantasy 3 sometime this summer. They have just, I mean, seriously, movie quality scores that they create that we use for all of our stuff. I've watched other Roll20 games where they've used the music from Roll20 itself. Hopefully, this won't get us any sort of copyright thing. If so, we'll have to go back through on video on when we go to YouTube and make sure to take it out of there. So instead of me playing in them, I'll just go ahead and show you how to add stuff from Roll20. That way we're not going to get in trouble if anything plays. So you can just go to manage your audio, and what it'll do is it'll bring up playlists and tracks. Obviously you don't have any playlists created yet, so you could start a new playlist and you could add in your own music. If you like, for a homebrew game, I put in a lot of bardcore music, which is a lot of modern music, basically with medieval style instruments, which the players were sitting in one of the taverns, and one of them noticed that there was a very popular dance hip-hop song from the late 90s, early 2000s, and they didn't realize it until 20 minutes of the session had passed. You can add your own music as well, but Roll20 actually does have some really great music that's built into it as well, from Battle Bards, Incompetech, and Tabletop Audio. I do have, of course, some stuff that I put in myself for different things. I got this music for Wild Beyond the Witchlight when I was doing the Witchlight Carnival. Put a bunch of stuff in there as well. But you can also go to these different groups that create music specifically for Roll20. And they have all different types of genres. Tabletop Audio, Battle Bards has a lot of great stuff as well. Like Battle Bards has stuff for like spells and things of that nature, sound effects, stuff like that. And then like Tabletop Audio is more ambiance. They have ambiance for fantasy, historical, horror, minimal, modern, all different types of genres. Of course, looking through the list, it has like a abandoned chapel or abandoned fair. Oops, why is that not streaming down there? There we go. If you're playing sci-fi, like an alien reactor, one of these studies, I'm actually using this antiquarian study in a game that I run, offline, of course. Yeah, like, for example, if you play Curse of Strahd, they've got some stuff right here for Barovian Castle, Barovian Village, all these different types of soundtracks that you can use to add more ambiance, more immersion to your VTT play. You can actually also load up, like when you load to this map, when you bring your players over to this map, you can actually set up music tracks to play on audio. So when that page loads up for the players, it'll start playing a specific track that you have ready to help create the ambience. So if you are bringing them to a battle map, you can have battle music switch on right when they flip over to this page. You can load each page with different music if you want. But when you add the track, so let's go ahead and we're going to manage audio. We're going to go ahead and go to my audio. We're just going to add Winter Wind to this. Add to game. So it doesn't start playing unless you hit the play button. This also right here will allow you to loop it. This is a Winter Wind that I took from a Creative Commons Zero video that is just basically winter wind blowing for I believe I can't remember how long this one is. I'm gonna hit it and pause it. Oops. Yeah, this is 5 minutes long, and I just have it looped. And I had that playing when we were playing Icewind Dale, the Rime of the Frost Maiden. So the players were constantly. Of course, they can adjust their own volume, which you can do again on your settings. You can go to audio and video, and you can. Each person in the room can change their master music volume level, how much music they want to hear, how much music they don't want to hear, all of that. You can also, as the DM or owner or the room owner, change the volume of the song itself up and down here as it plays. Then, of course, it does have this track that plays up here. We can change where the point that the song is during the track. You like move it up to like 3 minutes, so there's only a few minutes left or whatever. But I had the Winter Wind playing all during the Icewind Dale just to have that immersion of them, being in this, desolate, cold environment, very unforgiving environment. And the players, all the players, and I probably had 100 different players that I played different Icewind Dale. Rime of the Frostmaiden Adventures, from the hardcover to the D&D Adventures League Adventures, and all of that, that really enjoyed that immersion, which it doesn't really necessarily be one of the first things that you think of, but music definitely helps out when it comes to immersion for the players. Especially in certain types of games where you get like very gothic music for Strahd, or the Howling Winds and such for Icewind Dale, to help immerse the characters in that. So that's some music, different ways to manage your audio to help add immersion as well. So let's go ahead and go to the Charactermancer. Now, there's different experiences, obviously, that different people have with Charactermancer. Unfortunately, right now, Roll20 only allows a limited number of players that you can share your compendium with. I think it's like 15 or 16 players. Now, that also depends on the individual players. If you have certain players that are in multiple of your game rooms, that one player still counts as the one player from what I have seen. If anyone out there watching, if that's incorrect, please definitely correct that for me, either here in chat if you're watching live, or if you're watching on YouTube, maybe comment down there later on about if that's correct or not. But if you share your compendium, like for example, I have for 5th edition, official Wizards of the Coast products, I have pretty much everything that the characters need for Forgotten Realms campaign. I don't have any of the Magic the Gathering settings yet, but I have Player's Handbook, Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide, Xanathar's, Fizban's, Tasha's, Mordekainen's Monsters of the Multiverse. So the players have access to everything. So if we wanted to make a character with the Charactermancer, so let's say, for example, we've got Bilbo here. It's going to ask us when we usually load him up. I think we've already started that, and I think we did set him to do that way. Let's just create a brand new character. So with a character, let's name it Lars the Barbarian. Of course, again, as I mentioned, you can put them in individual players' journals. We're just going to save that, and it's going to ask us what. Well, it should have asked us what type of character we want. There we go. Click on the settings up there, and we're going to use the Charactermancer. So keep in mind, as you go through, you don't have to go through each one of these individually, okay? You can skip ahead to one. Like, for example, some people like to do their background before they do their class because, hey, I'm playing an urchin, and an urchin gets stealth and sleight of hand, or stealth and something else. Plus, they get thieves' tools. So I want to be able to put that in before, let's say I'm making an urchin rogue. I want to put in an urchin background before I pick my rogue skills. And you can go to your race first and pick your origin. So again, let's just go ahead with a Lightfoot Halfling. Halfling there. Of course, it does the standard ability score increase, which you can always change after the fact as well. Make them chaotic good. It'll come down here. It automatically throws your languages in there. Again, once the character is created, if you want to change different languages, as Tasha's does allow you to not, if you're a halfling but you weren't raised by halflings, you might not know the halfling language. So you can always go through after the character is created and just delete the halfling language and put in the language that you'd want instead. But it does put your lucky and brave in there. Choose your subways. Of course, we have Sword Coast Adventures Guide, so we can choose Ghostwise Halfling. We have Lightfoot Halfling. Obviously, I have the Explorer's Guide to Wildmount, but if I was running just Forgotten Realms, that wouldn't be shared in that room for them to choose the Lotus Inn Halflings, of course, then the Stout Halfling. Now, if you have your own homebrew world, you can have a custom subrace, and it'll allow you to put that custom subrace in here. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't store it. But if you have the documentation all ready to go, you can usually just copy and paste everything in there for the player that might be playing a custom race. Yeah, that's me too, kid. I myself like to pick my background as I'm making it. I really don't, as I mentioned in previous streams and such, I don't really build a huge like backstory behind the character just because I don't want to, you know, players have a tendency to rely so much on their backstory that they don't really think about, developing their character. So I kind of do that, but I'd love to have my background first, where they come from, how they become what the class they are now, and then proceed from there. So yeah, so we want to do a Lightfoot Halfling. So what we can do is, before we actually pick any race or any skills for our rogue, because the next choice is class. We're like, okay, we want to be a rogue, but we don't know what rogue skills we're going to get from our background, okay? So obviously we got to choose our skill proficiency. So what you can do is you can actually come up here to your background first. You can go to all these different areas, back and forth between there. That's kind of how when the Character Master first came out, you couldn't really do that. But Roll20 is adding so many different additions to it, which allows you to go between the two, and between the different categories, I should say, and it keeps what you last put in there. That way you can go back and double check everything. So as I mentioned, we're going to go ahead and go with a urchin background. I mean, who hasn't played a urchin rogue in 5th edition? So you can go through, and of course you do get sleight of hand and stealth. Keep in mind, again, if you want to do your custom background, you can put a custom background in as well. The Player's Handbook does allow for custom backgrounds. Now, if you do put custom things in, you will have to do a lot of copying and pasting into the Charactermancer. But it's not really as difficult as what it sounds, but you do have to do it multiple times if it doesn't really save any of your background in there. Now, of course, if you do stuff on the Dungeon Masters Guild, if you are a content creator on there, you can now create that content for Roll20. Roll20 and Dungeon Masters Guild do have an agreement now that you can actually put your things onto Roll20. So if you created some custom races or custom classes that you have on the DM's Guild, you can create those for Roll20, and people could purchase those, and you can add them into your library on Roll20, and it'll add those to your options as long as you set them up properly. Then, of course, you can either choose your personality traits and such, or you can just roll them randomly. Let's just roll them randomly real quick. Don't want the same one. There we go. He either scraps some food and trinkets away and doesn't like to bathe. His ideal is aspirations to prove that he's not, or that he is worthy of a better life. Roll your bonds, and again, of course, you can choose those as well. If you don't, again, those are just for role-playing suggestions for your character. You don't even have to use the ones that are in the Player's Handbook. You can make up your own because those aren't really mechanical. Those are just how you want to, just to give you a guide of how to role-play your character. Then, of course, it does give you your equipment for your background. Again, if you're using a custom background, you can go through and add those into either from the compendium or just put them on the character sheet later on. So you wouldn't have them necessarily from here, but you could add them to the character sheet afterwards. So we go next and like, wait, we need to go back to our class because we picked our background. We don't want to move on equipment yet. So we go back to our class, and then we can go down and see that sleight of hand and stealth have already been added to our skill list because of the fact that we are picked our background first. So we get to choose 4 other skills. Acrobatics is really good. I like to choose for a rogue. Investigation. perception, and then usually I'll pick up either deception, performance, or persuasion, depending on if I'm going to go with a higher charisma, or if I'm going to go with a little bit more of like an intelligence, wisdom, dex build for a rogue, and they're not necessarily going to be charismatic because perhaps maybe they don't want to be seen, they don't want to be noticed. You might go with wisdom and insight instead. So let's just say we're going to go with wisdom for this one. And of course, choose your expertise. It allows you to choose your expertise, which you can actually manually change in the character sheet as well. Obviously, we're going to go with stealth, and then let's go with thieves tools. Again, he doesn't want to necessarily be noticed, so he can do all of his thievery in the background. Of course, then for the equipment, it gives you a chance. Once you go to equipment, it can change. Like right here, it just shows you what standard class equipment is. Of course, you can change that when you get to that section. To if your DM says, okay, you have class wealth, and you roll all the dice to find out how much gold you start with, and then you buy your equipment. You can do that on the equipment page. If it's just starting with class equipment from that player's handbook, it'll give you the options there as well. So abilities, they've added again. They've updated a lot of the Charactermancer to allow a lot of great stuff. Standard array is the standard array from the player's handbook, which is one of the great options for Adventurers League. The other thing for Adventurers League that they use also is point buy. So you can either use the standard array that's in there, which I think is a 15, 14, 13, 12, 10, 8, something like that, or 15, 14, yeah, something. But anyway, you can also do a custom where you basically you roll, or you can roll for your stats, however your DM has you set those up for your game. We're just going to go a quick point buy, 27 points. He's got a +2 to their dexterity, so we're going to go ahead and add their dex to a 14. You could make it a 15 and then have 17. I don't tend to do that just because of the fact that a 16 and a 17 is the same ability score adjustment, and some people like to do it because they want to pick a feat at 4th level that would add 1 point to their dex and then give them some other ability, which is a great way to do it as well. Again, this is all personal preference and just my view, my ideas. If other ones, people have other ways of doing it, obviously totally do it however you feel most comfortable. I also like to have a fairly nice constitution. Strength, not too much. I'll probably leave strength as a dump stat. We might even leave charisma as a dump stat since we're not doing much with our charisma. So let's go with a 12 con. Let's give them a 14 int because thieves are proficient with dexterity and intelligence saves, so they definitely, with perception, or not perception, investigation and such, we do want them to have a fairly high investigation. We've got 9 points left. Let's go ahead and give them a 14 wisdom as well, so we've got a nice 14 intelligence wisdom base. Let's go with an 8 charisma, so we're not losing any points there. We could also go up to a 13 con. Let's see, I won't accept a 14 con, will it now? So we go to 13 con and 9 strength, but since 12 and 13, again, with the same bonus, we'll just go ahead and give them a 10 strength. That way there's nothing negative on their strength. Again, not very charismatic, but they're very quiet and very observant about things. Now, they haven't added in the new ability that started in Spelljammer, where you start first level with a feat, but we can remedy that. I'll show you how to remedy that fairly easily. So we've done the background already. It's already fixed and ready to go for us. So we go on to equipment. I'm just going to do the class equipment as just what we would normally pick up for a rogue. They start with leather armor, 2 daggers, thieves tools. Usually, since we start with a rapier with 2 daggers or a short sword, if you want to dual wield, you can with like a short sword and a dagger or 2 daggers. Obviously, you can't do that with the rapier unless you have dual wielding feat, because otherwise the weapons have to be light, and the rapier is not a light weapon. But the rapier is really good for just attacking one-on-one, so we can always, short swords aren't that expensive. After the first adventure, you can always pick up a short sword. That way you can fight short sword and dagger if you want. I usually choose a rapier just so you have a little bit extra oomph if you have to get into melee combat. If you wanted to be an up-close rogue, you can also pick up a short sword right here as well. I typically, of course, usually go with the short bow with the quiver, stay back fire as much as you can from the shadows. Second level, you get the cunning action, which is really nice. And then either, again, totally your choice, whether Burglar's Pack, Dungeoneer's Pack, Explorer's Pack, whatever. When you pick that, it's also going to not only put it on your character sheet, but it's going to fill out your character sheet in your inventory with everything that's in a Burglar's Pack, so you don't have to put all that stuff onto your character sheet. Of course, then we go next. We don't have any spells. We don't have to worry about that. We go to feats. They were discussing about maybe adding an option to where players could, put in something here. I'm sure they're eventually going to put that in there, especially since Spelljammer has brought up the thing to where if you start with a background that does not have a feat as part of the background feature, you can choose through skilled or tough. And I think with Forgotten Realms with the Adventures League, you can also choose Magical Initiate as well from that, which is all listed in the Spelljammer. Then next, of course, they do have some different ones for Dragonlance. And then, of course, we go back to the bio. Again, you do not have to fill this all out if you're not sure about. You can always fill this in on the character sheet later on. Like they got tanned or weathered skin, darker skin, lighter skin, green skin, pink skin, whatever they want to you have for that. Blue hair. Orange eyes, whatever you want to put in there, height and weight, and of course your age. Usually gives a little bit about age over here in the description most of the time, a little bit about their different kind of their like most of them have like brown or hazel eyes. It gives you a little bit of information. Again, those are only suggestions. You can have your character be whatever color skin, color eyes, color hair. That is all personal preference. It does give some name suggestions as well. We probably should change Lars from a barbarian to Lars the Lucky, since he's not a barbarian. But yeah, it gives you a lot of different suggestions for the class, for your character's race or species. I think it's what's going to be called, heritage maybe. We go next, and we'll give you a chance to review everything. And it'll generally also put like a little red flag besides a lot of these if you missed anything on there that you haven't filled out, which will allow you to go back up here, fix what you need to fix up there, and you're good to go. And just apply changes, and it will build the character sheet out. And now your character Lars the Lucky, the first level Lightfoot Halfling Urchin Rogue, is completed. You have all of your again, the Roll20 D&D sheet, or D&D 5th edition D&D sheet by Roll20 is pretty much just like the actual character sheets. You have your first page of your character sheet, you have your second page of the character sheet with your bio, and of course you have your alternate third sheet with spells. As I mentioned before, say for example you have expertise and you forgot to add it in or something like that, you can actually go into your settings here and change stuff from normal to expertise. You can also, if you're a bard, generally when you get to the level where you get Jack of all trades, it will most likely click this for you on its own. But if it forgets to, or something happens, you forget to, or you're leveling up by hand and not necessarily using the Charactermancer, you can click on Jack of all trades here for the bard. Again, if you're doing it manually, not using the Charactermancer, you can use when your rogue gets to 10th level, 9th level. Sorry, again, I've played every edition of D&D except for 4th. When they get reliable talent, you can turn that reliable talent on right there. Again, for custom classes, you can do all of that information when you multi-class. You change you add your multi-classes over here when you level up. Of course, if you level up with the Charactermancer and you decide to take a different class, it will add all of that information in automatically for you. And you'll also notice that as a Lightfoot Halfling, we do have Halfling Luck, and they already clicked that back here. So anytime we roll 1, it will re-roll for us. So we go back to the core. Now, we wanted to pick our first level feat that we get, since we did not get one from being an urchin. We got our city secrets, but we didn't get a feat from it. Now you can also adjust these if you want. Like for example, city secrets is a background for the urchin. If you want, you can always edit your city secrets and put in, hey, I also got the stealth skill. You can Say we want to add that feat, so we can just go over here. Either you can edit it and put it in manually, if you want to. Just like say, for example, we'll want to take the skill feat at first level, which gives us extra skills and tools if we want. So we're going to search skilled. Since we have the player's handbook in here, I think that's also might be in the SRD. So we're just going to drag skilled over here. Now it says accepting drop from compendium. Don't drop it on this box. Drop it anywhere on the character sheet outside of that box. And then what it'll do is it'll go bam, and it'll put skilled in here. So what we'll do is we'll edit that and say it is a feat, first level bonus feat, background feat. So we get, with skilled, we gain proficiency in any combination of 3 skills or tools of our choice. So we can go through and let's go ahead and add a forgery kit. Because we have thieves tools and disguise kit, we don't have a forgery kit yet, so we're going to get proficiency in forgery kit. And so we're going to add that and edit that, and we're going to go ahead and list what we picked up there. And then we're going to go ahead and take some other skills here. Some stuff that, you know, kind of adds to the skills we picked up, or especially with our abilities like intelligence and wisdom. We're going to have perception, so we got a really nice passive perception. Let's go with survival, because again, the character likes to be, you know, quiet on their own, back in the back. And then let's go ahead and pick up Arcana. That way, if we're checking for traps or anything of that nature, or we're in a dungeon, we'll be able to recognize some magical things without having to rely if you have a wizard or an artificer or something of that nature. So we're going to go ahead and put in forgery kit, survival, and Arcana. All right. So that gives us our skilled feat that we got bonus at first level. Now, in 5th edition, that you have those ability to choose between those. So that's an example of something the character manager hasn't had added yet, but I'm sure that they're working every day. I'll log into Roll20 and I'll have a, hey, will you take this? Please give a chance and take this poll, or do this test. Check out the new things we're adding in to Roll20. So they're definitely working on lots of improvements for it as well. Here's another improvement that is really great. They've had this for about 1.5 years, maybe 2 years now. A lot of people don't know about it because, again, a lot of people do tend to, when they're playing online, want to use, because of the popularity of D&D Beyond, a lot of people want to use their Beyond 20 app and kind of roll off their D&D Beyond sheet, which is, you know, still fine to use. We are just using Roll20 sheets on our live to play games on Sunday nights, and basically what you can do is you can set up macros. Now, macros are, we're not going to set any up right now. We're going to kind of delve into them a little bit more next week after our D&D movie review that we're going to do at the first part of the show. Again, spoilers for next week. If you happen to stop in to watch Dungeons and Deliberations next Tuesday, we are going to be reviewing the D&D Honor Among Thieves movie. But we'll also go ahead and talk more about macros, which are basically, you can set up a macro bar down here that allows you to click on your character token, and then you can do a bunch of actions without having to open your character sheet. But I'll leave you with one more tip before we head out. So you don't have to open your character sheet in a different window. Just double click on the name. It'll make a little semi-transparent little tab. You can move that anywhere around you want on your screen. And then when you need to open it up, just double click it again and it pops right back up. Double click it again, closes right back down. But yeah, so next week we'll talk about the Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves film. Definitely go out and check it out if you have a chance before next Tuesday. We will put in the title that we will have spoilers in there, because we are going to talk about the movie, talk about a bunch of different scenes, talk about really fun things that relates to 5th edition and Forgotten Realms in the film and all of that. Don't forget, tomorrow night we do have our Tavern Talks, the Shifty Boar. We are having guest DM Paul Gabat. He is one of the co-story leads for the Moonshay Isles Adventurers League campaign. He is also one of the great DMs that we have with Baldwin Games. He's from the Philippines as well. He's got his he's in the thick of it over there in their D&D scene. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, about also some of his other personal writing, and he does a lot of his VTT of choice is Owlbear Rodeo. We'll talk a little bit about that, and of course with his D&D experiences. And then on Thursday and Friday from 2 p.m. I'm sorry, tomorrow night, Tavern Talks is from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern, and then Thursday and Friday we'll have our Dungeon Delving from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern, where we are playing Lord of the Rings Online. And then we will have this Sunday evening off from our live play because it is Easter Sunday, and we hope those of you that are celebrating that have a wonderful holiday with your friends and family. But that will bring us to the end of today's stream. Again, thanks all for tuning in. If you haven't had a chance to join our community Discord, you can do so below in the About Us section. Just click on the Discord panel. Again, all of the link tree listed down for our socials. You can follow us, like us, subscribe to us there, things of that nature. And until then, we'll talk to everyone soon. Take care. Happy adventuring.